I systematically tested the Galaxy Watch 6 and the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, and in this video we're gonna find out how well they performed. My first test showed that these watches might be good enough for some of you, but I also suspect some people are disappointed with the performance of the Galaxy Watch 6 and 6 Classic compared to the Galaxy Watch 5 series, since there doesn't seem to be a major improvement, and many of you might have ended up buying the Galaxy Watch 5 series instead, but you can decide for yourself based on the test I'm gonna share in this video, so let's get to the testing. Hello everyone, for those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Rob and I'm a postdoctoral scientist specializing in biological data analysis. Now in this video we're going to test the Galaxy Watch 6 and the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. But first of all, you might be wondering what's going on right here. Well, I'm not in my normal studio since I'm visiting my parents in the Netherlands. And you might also be wondering what's going on with my face and with this device right here. Well, I'm actually testing the sleep tracking capabilities of the Galaxy Watches. And to do that, I'll compare them against a polysomnography device, which is this device right here, which is the gold standard in sleep stage tracking. However, that will be released in a week or two when I've actually analyzed this data. But in this video, we're also going to test the sleep stage tracking, but in a different way. But I actually want to start off by testing the heart rate tracking accuracy of the Galaxy Watch 6 and 6 Classic. And we're going to do this by systematically testing them during different types of exercises, in this case weightlifting, cycling indoors and cycling outdoors, and then also comparing the performance of the Galaxy Watches to that of many of the other watches I've tested in the past. So let's get to the results. And we'll start by looking at the performance of the Galaxy Watch 6 during indoor cycling, and we'll compare the heart rate measurements of the Galaxy Watch 6 to the Polar H10 ECG chest strap, which can generally record my heart rate very accurately. Now this figure shows you an overview of the performance of the Galaxy Watch 6, with along the horizontal axis the heart rate measurements of the Polar H10 ECG chest strap, and on the vertical axis the heart rate measurements of the Galaxy Watch 6. Now each dot here is a single heart rate measurement, and the closer the points are to this blue line, the better the agreement, and the more dots that there are, the darker black the color. And as you can see, most points are along the blue line, which is really good, and the correlation, this R value up here, is also really high at 0.98. Now this correlation value cannot be higher than 1, so a correlation of 0.98 is really good. And we can make a similar plot for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. So this is a similar overview plot to before, but now for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. And as you can see, though most points are still along the blue line, there's definitely more deviation away from the blue line. There are some points below it, but especially above it we see quite a few more points. So if you go back to the Galaxy Watch 6, we generally see a better agreement than for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. Now I'm not exactly sure why this could be. I was able to do a total of 2 spinning sessions, and in both cases the Galaxy Watch 6 did a bit better than the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. Now I'm not sure if this is random variation or if the different weight, size, shape of the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic had some influence on its performance. But let's take a look at the individual training sessions to see what's going on. And here you can see the results for the first spinning session with the Galaxy Watch 6 plotted in red and the reference Polar H10 plotted in blue-green. I have the time along the horizontal axis and my heart rate is along the vertical axis. And as you can see, the two lines seem to overlap very well, so the red line and the blue line show more or less the same patterns. Now the Galaxy Watch 6 does appear to have some noise, so there's some deviation at the tops of my heart rate where it will go up and down a little bit, but overall it looks quite good honestly. There's a slight delay here in it picking up a decrease in my heart rate, but overall this looks good. And we see more or less the same thing for this second spinning session right here, though the agreement might even be a bit better because there's less noise. So we see that the Galaxy Watch 6 in red follows along really nicely with the Polar H10 ECG chest strap. And we can make similar plots for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, which is plotted in red right here. Now as you can see, overall it doesn't look that different from the Galaxy Watch 6 in terms of performance. It might even have a little bit more noise, and there were also 2 moments where I deviated a bit more from the reference device. So here in the beginning it picked up on the too high heart rate, and right here during my first interval it had some trouble picking up on a decrease in my heart rate. Still, overall to me this looks quite good still. And for the second spinning session we see more or less the same thing. There might be a bit more noise than what we saw for the Galaxy Watch 6, and we also have some slight deviation, especially here in the beginning. Still, overall I would say that both perform quite well, with the Galaxy Watch 6 doing slightly better than the 6 Classic, but I need to do more workouts to confirm if this is a consistent problem. And we can get an even better impression of how the Galaxy watches performed by comparing them to many of the other watches I've tested in the past, and those results are displayed right here, with along the horizontal axis the correlation value we were looking at before, and this value cannot be higher than 1, so 1 is the best value. And on the vertical axis I ordered the watches from worst to best, so the further to the right and the higher a device is, the better is its correlation with the ECG chest strap. And here I marked the Galaxy Watch 6 in red, and as you can see it's close to the top performing watches. It's not as good as the Apple watches and some Huawei watches, but it's close. But let's zoom in a bit so we can actually read the labels. And this is a zoomed in view of the plot we were just looking at, but now we're just looking at those watches with a correlation of 0.9 or higher, so the top performing watches. And as you can see, even in that category of quite good watches, the Galaxy Watch 6 is doing a good job. As I said, it's not the absolute top, so the absolute top are Apple watches followed by some Huawei watches, but it's not bad at all. But we can also see that the Galaxy Watch 5 and the Galaxy Watch 4 perform about the same as the Galaxy Watch 6. So based on this first test, there doesn't appear to be a big improvement of the Galaxy Watch 6 compared to the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Galaxy Watch 5. Now I would say that this small variation in performance might be random, so I wouldn't say that the Galaxy Watch 4 is better than the Galaxy Watch 5 and the 5 is better than the 6. I think all of them are performing roughly the same. However, it's interesting to see that at least in this test, the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic did significantly worse than the Galaxy Watch 6, 5 and 4. Now again, I'm not sure if this is a real effect or if there's some random variation there since we're just looking at 2 exercises, but I can imagine that size, shape, weight, all these factors play a role in how well the watches can detect your heart rate. Next, let's take a look at cycling outside, which is generally more difficult for watches to track given the increased tension on my wrist and on my arm, and also given the increased bumpiness when I'm cycling. Now here we have a similar overview plot to before, but now for cycling outside, and we're looking at the Galaxy Watch 6 in this case. Now as you can see, most points are still along the blue line, but there's quite a few points away from the blue line, especially below it, indicating that the Galaxy Watch 6 detected a too low heart rate in these moments. Now I suspect that it's just more difficult for the watch to accurately track my heart rate during cycling, and this pattern looks similar to what we've seen for other watches, but let's now take a look at the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic to see how that performed. And in this case, on me at least, the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic seems to do a bit worse. Again, I was only able to do 2 cycling sessions, but the results are more or less consistent. We see in this case that for the 6 Classic there's also some points above the blue line, but especially many points below the blue line, and the correlation is also quite low at the moment at 0.66, whereas what we just saw for the Galaxy Watch 6 we have a correlation of 0.77, so slightly better than for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, but both are not that great honestly. But let's take a look at some of the individual cycling sessions to see what's going on. And here we have the results for my first bike ride with the Galaxy Watch 6 plotted in red. And as you can see, there's generally a pretty good agreement between the Galaxy Watch 6 and the Polar H10. Now I should note that the Galaxy Watch 6 auto paused, whereas the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic that I will show you in a second did not. So each time I took a pause, the Galaxy Watch 6 stopped recording my heart rate. So there's some gaps in my heart rate right here, right here, right here, and right here. Still, if you look at the moments where I did record a heart rate, it generally looks quite good. There's a slight delay in it picking up an increase in heart rate right here, and here it detected actually the inverse heart rate. So where I had an increase in heart rate that went up to about 130 BPM, it actually detected a decrease in heart rate, detecting about half the actual heart rate at about 70 BPM. And this is something we've seen before with smartwatches where they detect half the actual heart rate. Now looking at the second training session, this gives somewhat similar results. It had some trouble in the beginning right here detecting my heart rate, so detected a too low heart rate, but later on it was quite good at detecting the changes in my heart rate. And as we saw before, I expected the patterns for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic look a bit worse. And here we have the results for my first cycling session with the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. And as you can see, this does seem to have more trouble picking up on changes in my heart rate. So when my heart rate increased right here, there was a delay. When it decreased, it didn't detect it. Again, this decrease was also not detected by the 6 Classic. And especially here near the end, I had 2 big peaks in my heart rate, and the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic wasn't able to pick up on these. And for the second bike ride, we see more or less the same thing. Again, it had trouble in the beginning detecting my increased heart rate, and each time I had a dip in my heart rate, it wasn't able to detect this. So again, we see a slightly worse performance for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, and I'm not really sure what's going on here. And here we have a similar overview plot to before, but now for cycling outside. And again, the further to the right and the higher a device is, the better is its agreement with the ECG chest strap. And as you can see, the Galaxy Watch 6 marked here in red is doing okay, though not great. It's doing about the same again as the Galaxy Watch 5, but let's zoom in a bit so we can actually read those labels. And that zoomed in view is displayed right here. So again, the Galaxy Watch 5 is super close to the Galaxy Watch 6, and the Galaxy Watch 4 is also not far away. So the order is again roughly the same. So first the Galaxy Watch 6, Galaxy Watch 5 and Galaxy Watch 4. But again, the margins are pretty slim, so I think all of them are performing roughly the same. And interestingly, the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic again did a bit worse on me, but we actually need to zoom out to see that one. And that is displayed right here. So we zoomed out a bit again, so we're only showing the watches with a correlation of 0.6 or higher now. Before we're looking at 0.7 or higher. And we can see that the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic is doing significantly worse than the Galaxy Watch 6, at least on me. So again, the Galaxy Watch 6, 5 and 4 are quite close to each other, but the 6 Classic is quite a bit further away and it has poorer performance than these other watches. Now this might just be by chance, and if I do more exercises it might improve, but I'm getting a sense that there is a pattern here. Next, let's take a look at weightlifting, which is generally one of the most difficult exercises for a watch to track your heart rate because of the increased tension on my arm. So during weightlifting, the tension on my arm is really high, and this makes it very hard for the watch to get a clean signal. However, first a quick side note. If you're interested in the latest updates on the wearables I'm testing, I'm planning to start back up with my newsletter and posting more off-the-cuff things on my Instagram and my YouTube Shorts channel. So if you're interested in any of those are linked below. Of course, you would also make me really happy and it would help my efforts if you subscribe to this YouTube channel. But of course, this is totally up to you. Now, let's get to the results of weightlifting. Now this is a similar plot to before, but now for weightlifting. And again, we want those points to be as close to this blue line as possible. But as you can see, unfortunately, there's quite some clouds away from the blue line. So we see a big cloud of points here below the blue line, but also some above it. Now, if they're below the blue line, that means that the watch likely detected a too low heart rate in these moments. And I suspect this is a similar pattern to what we've seen for other watches, where they're not able to pick up on those peaks in my heart rate, because during the peaks I have a lot of tension on my wrist and my arm. But let's take a look at the 6 Classic. Now here we have the results for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. And again, these seem to be slightly worse than those for the Galaxy Watch 6. The correlation is now 0.65, whereas for the Galaxy Watch 6 we had a correlation of 0.72. So again, for some reason the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic appears to do slightly worse on me than the Galaxy Watch 6. Now I'm not sure, for instance, the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic suffers more from light pollution in the sensor because the shape is slightly different. We'll have to investigate that. Maybe I also have to buy the bigger Galaxy Watch 6 Classic and see if that performs better. But for now I can say that the smaller version of the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic seems to do slightly worse, at least on me, than the normal Galaxy Watch 6. But let's take a look at the individual training sessions to see what's going on. And this is a similar plot to before, but now for my first weightlifting session with the Galaxy Watch 6 in red. And as you can see, I had a lot of peaks in heart rate, and these were the moments I did a set of exercises. And what you will also notice is that in most of these cases, the Galaxy Watch 6 wasn't able to pick up on these peaks in my heart rate. So it's probably the increased tension on my arm and wrist that makes it hard for the watch to detect that increased heart rate. There were a few cases like right here, and right here, where it might have been able to pick up on most of the peak, but generally just follows the lower heart rate but not a higher heart rate. And we see more or less the same thing for this second weightlifting session, where generally it wasn't able to pick up on most of the peaks, though maybe this looked a bit better. So for the last part of the training right here, I did some leg exercises, so these were a bit easier. But again, here I didn't pick up on a decrease in my heart rate, and here it also missed a decrease. And in the beginning, again, it missed many of the peaks in my heart rate. And we see much the same for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, though this might even be a tiny bit worse. So again, most of the peaks in my heart rate are not detected, but we also see some other deviations like right here. And for this second training session, we see more or less the same thing, though here during my leg exercises, it struggled even a bit more than the Galaxy Watch 6. And we can get an even better impression of how the Galaxy watches performed by comparing them to many of the other watches I've tested in the past. Again, this plot has the same axis as before, so the further to the right and the higher a device is, the better is its correlation with the ECG chest strap for weightlifting. Now the Galaxy Watch 6 is somewhere in the middle right here, so it's not doing terrible but also not great. But let's zoom in a bit so we can see that better. So these are only the watches with a correlation of 0.7 or higher. And as you can see, the Galaxy Watch 6 is doing about the same as the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro in this case. So it's quite close, but we cannot see the other Galaxy watches. So for that we need to zoom out a bit again. and that is displayed right here. So these are only the watches with a correlation of 0.6 or higher, and we have the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic right here and the Galaxy Watch 6 right here. So there is a bit of distance again between them, but it's in this case the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic that is close to the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Galaxy Watch 5. So I'm not sure what's going on here. This might just be random variation, but in this case the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Galaxy Watch 5 are doing slightly worse than the Galaxy Watch 6, but about as good as the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. But again, I only have 2 exercises I'm basing this on, so I want to do a few more trainings to find out if there's a significant difference between any of the Galaxy Watches. Still, overall, I'm getting the general impression that Galaxy Watch 4, 5 and 6 are performing roughly the same when it comes to heart rate tracking, and I cannot really recommend you upgrade from the 4 or 5 to the 6, since there doesn't appear to be a big difference, at least not if your focus is on heart rate tracking. Next, let's test the sleep stage tracking of the Galaxy Watch 6 and 6 Classic. And as you can see, I am planning to compare them against the polysomnography device, so the gold standard in sleep stage tracking, but it will take some time to process, so that video will come out in a week or 2. But what we're going to do in this video is a bit different. So normally I would compare them against my EEG device, which I have at home, but unfortunately I cannot do that since I'm visiting my parents right now in the Netherlands. But we can do 2 things to assess the sleep stage tracking quality of the Galaxy Watch 6 and 6 Classic. Now the first thing I want to do is check for each night how similar the sleep stages tracked by the Galaxy Watch 6 and Galaxy Watch 6 Classic are. Now the assumption I'm making here is that the 2 watches have similar sensors and especially a similar sleep stage tracking algorithm, because the algorithm is the most important part in sleep stage tracking. So that means that if both watches have similar sleep stage patterns for the same night, that the algorithm is very stable, which is a good thing. However, if the results are very different, it means that the algorithm is very unstable, which means that at least one of the watches should be wrong, and probably both of them are not so good in that case. So let's check if the sleep stage tracking of the Galaxy Watch 6 is consistent. And this is an overview of the consistency between the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic and the Galaxy Watch 6, with the sleep stages according to the 6 Classic on top and the sleep stages according to the Galaxy Watch 6 on the left right here. Now each column sums to 100%, meaning that we can see what percentage of the sleep stages according to the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic was predicted as a sleep stage by the Galaxy Watch 6. Now, first of all, we see that only 29% of what was deep sleep according to the 6 Classic was also classified as deep sleep according to the Galaxy Watch 6, so that's quite low, and most of it was instead predicted as light sleep by the Galaxy Watch 6. Now, light sleep agreement was quite a bit better at about 75% agreement, with any disagreement being with REM sleep or awake time. REM sleep agreement between the 2 watches was mediocre, I would say, at about 55%. So 55% of what the 6 Classic predicted as being REM sleep was also predicted as REM sleep by the Galaxy Watch 6. However, a large percentage, in this case 43% of what the 6 Classic said was REM sleep, was predicted as light sleep for the same night by the Galaxy Watch 6. Now the Galaxy Watch 6 generally also predicted the same awake moments as the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, though the Galaxy Watch 6 in this case also detected more awake moments, as you will see in the individual nights. And if it did predict it differently, it predicted it mostly as being light sleep, which makes sense as light sleep is the closest sleep stage to being awake. Now looking at the individual nights will actually teach us quite a bit, and I would say there was one good night of agreement and one bad night of agreement, and this first night right here had quite okay agreement. So we have the sleep stages as recorded by the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic on top right here, and those of the Galaxy Watch 6 on the bottom, with the deep sleep as recorded by the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic in purple right here. And as you can see, in terms of deep sleep agreement, this was quite good. So they detected deep sleep at roughly the same moment for this night, though the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic detected a bit more deep sleep. Still, overall, both detect quite little deep sleep. So in a normal night, you'd have roughly 20% of the night being deep sleep. And this is quite a low percentage here. So maybe I actually slept lighter, but I have a feeling like this is an underestimation. Now looking at light sleep agreement marked in cyan right here for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic is okay, I would say. But there is some confusion. You can see some of the light sleep according to the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic was detected as either REM sleep, but also awake moments by the Galaxy Watch 6. Still, generally this doesn't look that bad. Now looking at REM sleep agreement, we see mediocre agreement at best. So there's a REM sleep segment here in the beginning according to the 6 Classic that is not detected by the Galaxy Watch 6. And also later on the agreement is not that great, though the location of the segments is roughly the same. So there's 1, 2, 3 more REM sleep segments according to the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, and the Galaxy Watch 6 also detects 3 more REM sleep segments at roughly the same time, Though for this first segment right here, the agreement is not quite as good. So the Galaxy Watch 6 detects it sooner and also much more. So this doesn't look that great. And in terms of awake detection, we actually see that the Galaxy Watch 6 detected more awake moments for me. So the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic basically just detected this awake moment right here, which was also detected by the Galaxy Watch 6. But the Galaxy Watch 6 detected a bunch of extra awake moments right here, here, and here. However, it's actually the second night where the agreement is by far the worst, and that is displayed right here. Now, as you can see, I did have some awake moments in the middle of the night. So around 2, I know I woke up for a bit and I was awake until about 3:30, so I can actually remember this. And the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic was okay at detecting this. However, the Galaxy Watch 6 actually detected many more awake moments, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's first look at the deep sleep, which is marked in purple right here. And as you can see, for this night, the Galaxy Watch 6 detected no deep sleep at all, which is highly unlikely. The Galaxy Watch 6 Classic did detect some deep sleep here in the beginning of the night, which is where we would roughly expect it. So I would trust the results of the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic more than those of the Galaxy Watch 6, though I expect both are not doing that great. Now, if we next look at REM sleep detection, marked in red right here for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, we again see mediocre agreement. The location of the 4 segments roughly agree, so there would be 1, 2, 3, 4 segments according to the 6 Classic, and also 1, 2, 3, 4 according to the Galaxy Watch 6. However, the exact duration of them is quite a bit different. The Galaxy Watch 6 detected relatively long REM sleep segments here in the beginning of the night and relatively short ones later in the night compared to the 6 Classic, so I'm not sure what's going on here. And as I said, awake detection looked vastly different between the 6 Classic and the Galaxy Watch 6. So those detected by the 6 Classic are marked in green right here. And as you can see, the Galaxy Watch 6 detected many more awake moments. And based on my subjective experience, I trust the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic more in this case. Though honestly, I think both are using the same algorithm, so it's just a bit random that the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic seems to do a bit better, at least subjectively, compared to the Galaxy Watch 6. And I suspect that because they're generally showing low consistency for this night, that both didn't perform that well. However, this doesn't tell us the full story, because while we can say that bad consistency likely means bad sleep stage tracking, good consistency doesn't necessarily mean good sleep stage tracking. Say for instance that both watches detected deep sleep for the entire night, which should only be about 20% of your night. They're very consistent because they're only detecting deep sleep. However, their sleep stage tracking is not very good. Now, the one way we can evaluate the algorithm of the Galaxy Watch 6 is by looking at the Galaxy Watch 5, which I recently tested in a sleep lab. Now, I'm not sure if there have been big changes in the sleep stage tracking algorithm from generation 5 to generation 6. I went through all the release notes and this doesn't appear to be the case. The biggest improvements appear to be in data presentation, not in data quality. So Samsung did update the way the data is presented to you, but I don't think that the underlying algorithm has improved. But of course, this testing will show that. I still think therefore it's very valuable to show you how the Galaxy Watch 5 performed in the sleep lab. So let's take a look. Now, as I mentioned before, I cannot say with certainty whether or not there were any changes in the sleep stage tracking algorithm of the Galaxy Watch from generation 5 to generation 6, but I still think these results are very interesting and they generally match with what we just saw. Now, I should mention that these are based on a single night because it isn't as easy to get access to a sleep lab, but the results make sense. So first of all, we see that 51% of what was deep sleep according to the scientific gold standard was also deep sleep according to the Galaxy Watch 5. And if there was any confusion, it was mostly confused with light sleep. So this generally matches what we saw with the consistency between both devices. Now, the light sleep agreement was a lot better compared to the reference at about 70%. And if there was any confusion, this could be with any of the other sleep stages, so deep sleep, REM sleep, and awake time. Now, REM sleep agreement again is mediocre at about 57%, and most confusion of what was in fact REM sleep according to the scientific gold standard was with light sleep according to the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5. Now, awake time detection looked really poorly for Teresa, with only 25% of the awake moments according to the scientific gold standard also being detected as awake moments by the Galaxy Watch 5, and in fact 63% of them were detected as light sleep instead. Now, I also tested the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro in a sleep lab, and in this case on myself, again for a single night. And I would say that we roughly generally see similar patterns of performance, though there are some differences. Now, deep sleep agreement is not that great, with only 48% of what the scientific gold standard said was deep sleep also being detected as deep sleep by the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. In this case, more of it was detected as being light sleep instead. Now, light sleep agreement is again a bit better at about 64%, which is slightly worse than it was for Teresa. And most confusion in this case was with REM sleep, but there was also some confusion with awake time. Now, REM sleep agreement was quite a bit better for this night on me, and it was also a bit better than the consistency we saw between the two Galaxy Watch 6s. So about 74% of what the scientific gold standard said was REM sleep was also detected as REM sleep by the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. And if there was any confusion, this was generally with deep sleep and light sleep. And also awake detection was quite okay on me at about 86%. So 86% of what the reference device said was awake time was also detected as awake time by the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, though it did tend to detect some extra awake moments when I was in fact in light sleep. And for awake time, any confusion was in this case with light sleep or REM sleep. Though I have to admit those awake time percentages are potentially a bit inflated in favor of the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. And we can see that based on the individual night. So this is the night that the results were based on, with the reference device on top and the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro on the bottom. And as you can see near the end, I was awake for quite a bit before I actually got up. And this agrees quite well between the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro and the PSG device. But if we look at the other awake moments I had during the night, the Galaxy Watch Pro didn't pick up on most of these. So it might appear to do a bit better at awake time detection based on those percentages than it did in reality. So if we only focus on those awake moments that happened during the night, the percentage might be close to what we saw for Teresa. So not 85%, but maybe closer even to 25%. And we can actually put this into perspective by comparing the performance of these Galaxy Watches to that of many of the other devices I've tested in the past, and that is displayed right here in this overview, with the average agreement over the 4 individual sleep stages along the horizontal axis and the agreement of the worst sleep stage along the vertical axis. So that means that the further to the right and the higher a device is, the better is the agreement with the reference device. Now those devices that are tested with the gold standard, so polysomnography, are marked in blue right here, and the other devices that are not marked in blue were tested with the EEG device. Now the EEG device is another reference which is not quite as good as a polysomnography device, but good enough to get an impression of the performance of these watches. And I marked the Galaxy Watch 5 and Galaxy Watch 5 Pro tested with an EEG device in red right here. Now, as you can see, generally the best performing devices are different Apple Watches. So there are many Apple Watches right here, like the Apple Watch 8, Apple Watch SE, and Apple Watch Ultra. But other good devices include different Fitbits, Whoop Strap, even the Google Pixel Watch, and also the Withings Sleep Analyzer, for instance. And the Galaxy Watches are doing mediocre. And if we now plot the performance of the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro that we were just looking at in here, we see it's doing a bit better than what we saw based on the EEG device. Though again, the results for the awake moments were a bit inflated. So if we drop that down to 25%, then it would be doing significantly worse, and it would be located maybe around here, I suspect. But still, for consistency, let's stick with these results. Then we see that the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro isn't doing terrible, though there are definitely many better devices out there. I would say that all the Galaxy Watches that I tested so far, which I suspect have roughly the same algorithm, are doing mediocre at best. So we have the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, Samsung Galaxy Watch 4, Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 and Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. And no matter what reference device I'm using, I would say the performance is mediocre at best, though the best result for the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro right here isn't terrible. And I'm not sure if this variation is purely technical or also just the fact that this was just based on a single night, whereas for the others I have many more nights. Still, generally I wouldn't recommend Galaxy Watches if your focus is sleep stage tracking. And what I've seen so far for the Galaxy Watch 6 doesn't encourage me to think that it's much better, but my future testing will have to show whether or not there's any significant improvement in the Galaxy Watch 6 compared to the Galaxy Watch 5. Now it's finally time to take all this stuff off my face, and after that I'll share my final conclusions with you. So what is my final conclusion for the Galaxy Watch 6 and Galaxy Watch 6 Classic? Well, first of all, I was surprised that I got a different result for the Galaxy Watch 6 and 6 Classic, especially when it comes to heart rate tracking. Now, I'm not sure if this is a consistent result or if with more testing it will become more similar, but still, the Galaxy Watch 6 seemed to be very similar to the Galaxy Watch 5 and 4, whereas the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic always seems to perform just a little bit worse. But yeah, more testing will have to be done to be sure. Second, I'm not surprised, at least in my first testing, the Galaxy Watch 6 seems to do about as well as the Galaxy Watch 5 and 4 when it comes to heart rate tracking, and maybe also when it comes to sleep stage tracking. The sensors are more or less the same, and the firmware in the 4 and 5 is still being updated, so it's just not surprising that the 5 and 4 are doing about the same as the 6. There might be future firmware updates that the 6 is going to get exclusively, and then the 6 might become better than the 5 and 4, and I also want to do more testing. But my impression so far is that if you care about heart rate tracking and maybe sleep stage tracking, and you have your mind set on a Galaxy Watch, just get the 4 or the 5, which you can probably get for $100, maybe even $150 less, and you're probably going to get similar performance. Now, there are some differences between these watches, but overall, I'm not that impressed with the Galaxy Watch 6 yet. Now, this was just an initial review because I wanted to get the results out to you as soon as possible because all of you are asking for it. But the complete reviews will be coming out over the next few weeks, and then we'll see if there's actually any improvements in the Galaxy Watch 6 compared to the 5 and 4, and we'll also see if there's anything new or improved about the Galaxy Watch 6 that I haven't tested so far. Until that time, if you do plan on buying the Galaxy Watch 6, the Galaxy Watch 5, another device, or anything at all on Amazon for that matter, even something as small as toilet paper, and at the same time you want to support the channel, there are different affiliate links in the description below. They do not cost you any extra, and some even provide a discount. Of course, you would also make me really happy, and it would help my efforts if you like, subscribe, and comment, but of course this is totally up to you. Also, since you watched this whole video on the Galaxy Watch 6, you might also be interested in this video where I compare my top devices of 2023. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and catch you in the next video.